Live.
Thank you, Maria. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of VCTV, the Venture Capital TV from La Token. Myself, Sunny Mohanty, I'm the Regional Director of La Token based here in Singapore. So today we have another dynamic and diverse panel of speakers. And the topic of discussion is going to be around laws of investments with a slight focus on decentralized credit ecosystems, token listing, market making. Yeah, we're going to touch bits and pieces of everything today. So I'm going to start with our speakers who've already been on the show before. So we have first Sanjay Vatta. I think Sanjay, hi, welcome. This is the third show on VCTV, right?
Yes, thank you, Sony. Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate it.
No worries. Could you start with a short introduction about yourself?
Yeah, very short. I've spent 25 years experience in this industry at C levels in companies like BlackRock, Citigroup. One of the four people brought into Safe Citigroup, and State Street, founder of Capco. Took early retirement at a very young age of 20. And decided that I should get into my own ventures. So right now I've got Global Accelerated Venture, which is setting up venture and innovation studios. I've got Princeton Growth Accelerator, and we are also and I'm also the chairman of Invenium Advisory Board. So I'm doing a lot of work on blockchain, especially on valuation of private assets, and so that they become tradable and can be marked to market at current market values. And in deep tier supply chain financing, where we have built a blockchain technology with probably one of the finest world experts. So I'm more in the disruption space, in the fintech space. We are doing disruption in healthcare and energy too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Sanjay. Welcome to VCTV again. So the next speaker we have is Zahi Khansa. Again, it's the second time on the show, but for those who don't know Zahi, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sonia, and thank you for having me today. I'm a partner in a group called Titanium. It's a technology group based in Israel, and our focus is blockchain. One of our main activities is by FutureBlock, which is our venture studio for blockchain startups. So we invest in blockchain startups and we assist them, to grow. And this is our main focus in the last 5 years. And thank you again for having me.
Excellent. That was short and quick. Thank you, Zahi. Welcome again. So we have a guest speaker, but who is a friend to LA Token as well, in the sense we've been working a lot together. Wesley Prior. Hi, Wesley. Hi, how are you? My friend as well. How are you?
Hey.
How are you doing?
Hey, Sunny. I'm well. Thanks so much for inviting me to the show, and it's a pleasure to be here to speak with you guys today. Looks like a great crowd here on the call. A bit about myself. I'm the founder of Asheron Trading. We are a designated market maker, and we focus exclusively on building liquid markets for digital assets. So again, thank you for inviting me to the call.
Excellent. Welcome, Wesley. The last but not least, we have Alex, who is going to be giving a keynote about Secoba. But it's just a short and quick intro about yourself, Alex.
Yes, hi. Thanks for this invitation, Sunny. It's great to be here. So yes, I'm Alex Kampa. I'm the founder of Secoba, and we're building an IOU platform on blockchain. So basically what we're doing, we're addressing the needs of about 300 million small and micro businesses in developing countries who use informal credit on a regular basis. And we basically make that more efficient by providing technology to overcome limitations of informal credit. But I'll speak about this a bit later also. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, Alex, for the short, quick intro. We are all set now for the questions. So Sanjay, because we were discussing about this before, we went live about supply chain financing and the issues around it, a lot of issues. So we like to know what's happening in the space, investment and concerns, issues. Yeah, please.
So if you follow so we all have been impacted by COVID. If someone has not been impacted by COVID, raise your hands. So we all have been impacted by COVID, but what's really been impacted is the supply chain, right? Both from a product and financing side. And companies are very focused on what's happening to the supply chain. So what I've seen is that today it's a $13 trillion is required on a global basis to be financed for 90-day credits. So your goods have been shipped, it's been accepted by the buyer, and the buyer has said, I've committed to pay in 90 to 120 days. And what happens is only about 5 trillion gets financed by the banks. So I worked at Citibank, and we used to make $12 billion out of providing a platform for limited people, limited companies globally. And we used to make $7.5 billion to the bottom line just by providing the platform. Forget financing. But the remaining $7 to $8 trillion is financed by money lenders at 15, 18, 20, 21%. What has happened post-COVID is that, or not post-COVID, we're still in COVID arena. I would love to think it's post-COVID, is that the full aspect of the supply chain, because it's been impacted, the SMEs, the small, medium enterprises, their credit rating has gone really downwards. As a result of it, banks in most of the countries can't even lend to them. So who can the banks lend to? It's a major buyer. So supply chain financing needs to be shifted from SMEs going directly to the bank, going to the buyer, and getting the financing done. And that is what we in TeleX have done. We have created a deep tier supply chain financing capability on blockchain with a very intelligent token and AI driven. We have our own reputation credit and everything, which allows the buyer to create procurement alpha. So they're making money out of something, of financing the suppliers who they owe money for by borrowing from the bank at a lower price and doing it. The full aspect of managing that is tokenized. The token is a rich token, but what is more important in supply chain financing is people like us, right? If I've got $50,000 sitting in the bank and I want to finance it, I can put it in the bank and I get 0% interest rate. Or I have a menuless script which says, I can put $50,000 to finance this invoice or this bill payable or this demand draft, which is secured against an asset, the asset being the receivables. I can finance it against that. And I can put the money in and I can get 2.5% in about 3 months, 4 months. So I can do this. So it allows financial inclusion, it allows individuals and banks also to be part of the equation. But you can create different marketplaces. You can create marketplaces. So I think the supply chain financing is one of the blockchain is going to be instrumental in picking up supply chain period in the world to pre-COVID levels. If you do not have blockchain, there's no trust. I can't carry heaps of paper and go and get bills of lading done, bills of letters of credit done, and all those things. That's gone. It's all going to happen on blockchain.
Excellent. That's a perfect use case of blockchain coming from our ex-banker. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Zahi, we would like to know about investments, like what recent investments or merger acquisitions that you've done, because I keep on getting a lot of emails from you, lots of happening in the space. Please enlighten our audience.
Okay, so I think in general, COVID changed a lot in what investor look at. First of all, we take a look at our portfolio companies and we see, if timing is right for us to go for other companies or, take a look more for the next round of our companies. And I think for companies that are first raising capital for the first time, it's something that they need to take into account when they are talking to a serial investor, because at the end, you want to keep your portfolio first. Second, and I'm not talking only about blockchain, I'm talking in general, investor taking a look a lot more on the expenses or the burn rate than on the growth, because growth is, for future, and now we take a look at the strength of the startup. Then we go into the topics. There are few topics that are very hot right now. We all know everything related to digital health for sure is strong, and in general, making things more digital are in the focus right now. So taking into account all this, then we go to the blockchain. So we took a look in the last months on few startup dealing with health, mostly about everything related to digitizing vaccines, cross-border activities that blockchain is very, very strong at, solving, because we know the time to market is very short. So we need an application that can, go into market very quick. So for now, what we're looking for mostly is application that do something different, digital in the current world. So we know that decentralized finance become very hot in the last year, but we start looking at things that are more going into the infrastructure, meaning we see that at the beginning, decentralized finance applications become hot and a lot of application went on. But what is missing now, because we rarely see very unique thing that we see a very strong go-to-market in the short term in decentralized finance that is very new. So we are focusing now on more on taking a look at the infrastructure, because from what we all understand that if decentralized finance will succeed, then usage of the network would be very strong. Then we need solutions for decentralized finance, but for the blockchain protocols, for the infrastructure. And for sure, one solution is looking for new protocols, but other solutions which we are very interested right now are taking care of current protocols that are very used in order to enable fast and good transaction, for decentralized finance. So that's our focus now.
Great. DeFi, I have to agree. A lot of noise and a lot of investments going in the space. But it's a quick one. Are you investing into seed stage startups, or are you investing into current portfolio that you have, or you are open to probably look into a startup which is just got a very fantastic innovative product? I mean, how do you assess?
So we have two levels of things that we look at. For our venture studio, we look at very early stage startup, because at this point, we are very strong, and as a venture studio, we want to put all our resources, both financial, and others, and business with the startup. But we have also what we call our ecosystem, where we have other blockchain startups in different stages that we like and we want to support. And we do it, as our own group. And also, as I mentioned, in the preliminary call we had, in Future Block Malta, which is in cooperation with the Malta government, in order to bring these startups to Malta and then to the EU. So we have a few channels, but our main interest is, if I need to generalize, is before round A.
Okay, thank you. That's a great point. Sorry, I thought I lost you for a bit. Thank you. Next, thank you, Zai. Next, I move to my friend Wesley. Hey, Wesley.
Hey.
Hey, just tell me, because market making, I know I represent exchange, and I constantly hear people talking about market makers, volumes. So please tell me, what are the challenges in this space, and how do you come into help this, or solve these challenges?
The challenges in the space, that's a big question. The challenges when we're thinking about market making, as a market maker, the challenge is to educate projects that are coming to market as to the importance of market making. So a lot of teams are very strong. They have fantastic ideas. They're bringing a very innovative protocol to the digital asset space, but they don't fully grasp the importance of making that asset highly available and highly liquid with significant outside participation. That's always a challenge for us as a market maker, that educational process. The challenge for projects is very much the same. They typically don't know that they need a market maker until they're in discussions with the exchange that they're going to do their primary listing, or their first trades ever on a public venue. So they come with all this technological innovation ready to go, and then at the last moment, this whole new thing that they didn't think of is sprung on them, and it's a scramble to figure out how do they fit this activity in their budget, how do they do it, how do they pick the right partner, and what are even the metrics that should be considered for a market making operation to have any degree of success. I would say those are some of the biggest challenges.
Right. Well, yeah, we're going to discuss that in a bit more details as we go along the show. Thank you for your points, very high level. I asked you a very high level question, so thank you for that, Wesley.
Sure.
So, Sanjay, I would like to ask you a question. Like, are you currently, because you said that you are tokenized the supply chain platform?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so what were the challenges that you faced in terms of securing investments, if any, or you are bootstrapped, or so what has changed in terms of investments into the space?
Well, we have had no problem on getting investments in this space. We started this journey about 2 years ago. We started with the utility token, and then we disbanded that very fast because it's not asset backed, and I'm always a fan of asset backed. So we have had no problem in raising finance. In fact, one of the things we are launching in a very big way in Austria and India, and for deep tier supply chain financing with the government help, the person who's my friend who owns one of the biggest financial services company in India says, so we said we'll do a joint venture with you and launch this in these two countries. He said, no, I want to invest in your parent company in Princeton, New Jersey, right? So now he's coming in. Remember, I'm an angel investor and advisor. I'm not part of the management team because I chose not to do it. I've got other things. He wants to invest directly into the main company. So, our valuations are pretty decent. Our opportunities are huge, right? So we have not had any problems in raising money, but it's always a problem in the COVID times when you can't meet people is to get the contracts and the execution going. It's also a change in cultural behavior. Think about it. A purchasing department, a procurement department that buys about $100 billion a year, like Dow Chemicals and all those. Now they start making $2-3 billion out of this. What's the intention of a procurement department? It's two things. I'll negotiate your price down significantly, and I'll pay you as late as possible. Now they will still negotiate your price down as little, but as soon as they ship them and accept them, they want to finance me because that's how they make money. So it's a change in behavior pattern and putting the buyer in the middle. And I think that's the difference that's happening. And so it's more of a cultural shift. Investment dollars have not been the issue, and talent has not been the issue.
Okay, so great. I mean, so in terms of private equity investments, so you don't face any challenges from that respect because tokenization is pretty new, and especially supply chain is.
Well, it is new, but remember, I'm doing a token that represents an asset that allows interoperability between marketplaces. I'm not creating a utility token, so people can see the backing of it, right? I'm not creating a cryptocurrency also. So as soon as people understand that, I'm automating the supply chain financing processes and making it available leveraging blockchain and making it available for people to easily get financed and people to make alpha returns. So you have to look at it very substantially. So I think I'm working with State Street now on the full tokenization platform for private markets end to end, right? That will take some time because what you're doing with Invenium valuation of private asset, that will take time because that's a bigger, steeper learning curve. But supply chain, people are looking for an outlet and buyers are looking to control the supply chain to make sure the supply chain doesn't get disrupted. And this is one of the ways.
Okay, cool. Good to know about that space. Thank you, Sanjay, for that. Sahi, I'd like to ask you a successful pivot from a startup that you've experienced during this time of pandemic that you can share with your audience and the speakers.
Yeah, well, the term pivot, is a nice name, but usually it's not. Usually it's a very painful process, and when it's coming in a difficult time, it's even more difficult. So actually, what we've seen during COVID is less the nice space of pivots, because when you see that what you planned before cannot be executed, and you have no idea if it will stop in 6 months or 12 months. And I can give you very quick examples of things that we saw. We had one activity that I handled the events world, for example. So this was need to be pivoted, but it was extremely difficult to think what to pivot to. We have loyalty points. So for sure, you have loyalty points in many things, but in aviation is very strong. So we see a lot of need for pivot. What we recommend our startups in general is not to be too quick to make a pivot, and be more patient, and we need to plan back, the changes, and gain more time in order to go back to what we planned before, if the change is only COVID. If the market totally changed, or you went into a field that there are 1,000 competitors there already, so you made the mistake from the beginning. But in general, what we recommend that if it's only COVID, plan better, think about how the market will change, and go back when things are going back stronger, and then you can have a better market share if you have the financial capabilities.
Okay, great. So have you seen a startup recently that you under your portfolio, or you're planning
Yeah,
to
of course. I get the example you just about the event. So related to that, we did a pivot with the same concept, the same technology, but shifted from events to things that are not physical. But it has a cost. It has a big cost, because if the market was very big before, now it's smaller. But we decided to go to market in a different way.
Okay.
And develop different feature for things that are not physical.
Okay, great. Thank you, Zai. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot.
Sharing. So one of the speakers just joined us just now, George Sebastio. Hi, George. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. In my schedule, it was 1 hour later, so that's fine. I guess it's all the different time zones.
Oh dear. Is it
No
my
problem.
mistake? My apologies for that.
Don't worry, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's fine.
So we are nearly halfway through the show. Just quick introduction about yourself and what you do, so that the audience and other speakers just can know about you.
Very briefly, I don't want to take too much over the meeting, but the point is I'm primarily a CTO with about 35 years of experience, and I do assist a lot of organizations in the chief technology area in terms of understanding the value of technology. I also do a lot of advisory for blockchains and fundraising, as well as understanding the technology. Other than that, because I have a background in mathematics and cybersecurity, so I assist a lot of the blockchain startups in the area of the risks associated with cybersecurity and how to minimize them. And other than that, I guess we've been together in probably 4 or 5 events so far, some in Kuala Lumpur, some virtually, and this one also virtual as well. So
yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely, George. We used to bump into events, conferences in Dubai and other places as well, and now virtually. You're right. Thank you, and welcome to VCTV again. Wesley, before we move to the team of Sikova, I just have a very quick short question. So, because you're an advisor to many projects as well, right?
Yes.
So what are the best practices that you can advise the startups who's looking for fundraising and listing and market making? I mean, quickly, you can just...
Oh, no. There's actually many issues to address, but the first issue to address is you need to have a good mousetrap. What it really means is you need to actually solve a business problem. We found many times, many of the startups don't really understand the business problem they're trying to solve. So as long as you have a business problem that you're solving, that means you have a target customer base that you can reach. After that, you need to have a good team. Obviously, without a qualified team, it's very difficult to actually for a startup to deliver on the results. Because usually startups tend to have aggressive time frames, they don't necessarily have all the skills in-house. If you have a proper team, then you can go through the bumps of the road, because you're probably going to fail 3 or 4 times before you succeed as well. The third area that I think startups is very important is to actually achieve at least a minimal viable product and get customer references, because without a customer story, it's a customer story who tells the others that you have traction and your product is actually serving a purpose in the real world, as opposed to in a theoretical world, which means it's still in the lab somewhere. So once you get the first customer feedback, then you definitely have traction on the road. And this is how real startups actually achieve. The third or fourth part that I think is important and should not be overlooked is what I would call the scale up part of the startup. Many startups, yes, the idea is good. Yes, they have a good team, but sometimes the product or the solution they have is not scalable. Not scalable in the sense, maybe in terms of customer acquisition or in terms of technology. I'll give you a very simple example, so it's actually quite clear. One of the very nice startups that occurred about a few years ago, we're talking about in the last 2 years, many of you have seen Sophia. Sophia is actually a startup in the sense that it combines 2 technologies, very advanced. One is AI technology, and the second one is robotics. So, and by fusing these 2 technologies correctly, you have a robot that understands what your face expressions are, what's your language, and then reacts with expressions, and it establishes a completely different relationship. However, the way this robot was built is one of a kind. So that means building the second one will be as costly as building the first one. So that means they did not build a factory to build these robots. So yes, the idea is good, but it's not scalable. I mean, you cannot go and spend another $10 million or $20 million to build a second robot. Yes, the first one can cost 10, but the second one should cost 1 or half. And then you have a factory approach, the concept of the Ford Model T, you need to be able to replicate what you have done at least successfully once. And then once you have done, then the investors come in, because they say, yes, you have a good mousetrap, you have a customer base, you have a good team, and you have a story you can repeat, you can scale up. Then the investors say, oh, if I put this amount of money in, I'll be able to do 2x, 10x, 50x, depending on the type of businesses that you have. I usually use 3 letters that was introduced to me by a good friend, and I call it MBC. MBC, remember the TV show that exists in Saudi? But MBC really stands for 3 things. Any good business is like a stool which needs 3 legs. And the M for the MBC is for money, so you need funding. The B is for the brains, or the idea and the mousetrap. And the C is for the contacts, the sales, the business development, the scalability of the solution. So once you have a business that actually has these 3 legs, then the business has a good chance to succeed. Now, will it succeed? Of course, it depends on good luck a little bit, timing and other things you don't always control. But if those 3 elements come together in a good way, then the business has a good chance to actually succeed in the marketplace.
Yes. Thank you, George, for those inputs. I think scalability is very important from a long-term perspective, sustainability of the business and the startup. Thank you. Wesley, just quickly, your thoughts on that question. How do you advise?
Yeah. So when it comes to advisory, yes, I do advise several projects that we work with as a designated market maker, but also just projects that I believe in. I won't pretend that I can advise on the technology or that's typically even needed. Usually projects have the technology piece figured out quite well by the time that we become engaged with the project. But the biggest advice that I would give to any project that's preparing their go-to-market strategy and everything that comes after that is to find a good mentor. Find a project, a connection in the space that has gone through these steps, that had a very successful go-to-market strategy that looks similar to what you're planning on doing, and try to make that connection someone that's detail oriented, that doesn't mind giving you, how it went, what vendors they used, what the pitfalls were, right? A lot of projects can spend, like I said, they come up to this go-to-market phase, and there's a huge cost and capital requirement associated with the successful go-to-market strategy. And they didn't plan for it. It's last minute, and they rush through those steps, and their typical vendor diligence that they would do falls down. So the earlier that you can find a mentor, another company that's gone through this process, the better off you're going to be. Second to that, I would say, don't just take someone's word. Like you're going to have to use the most important vendors on the go-to-market are, who is your designated market maker and who is your primary exchange. So don't just do the same vendor diligence you would do with any other vendor. Just because this is an area that is unfamiliar to you, don't just take anyone's word for it that, oh, this is a good market maker, or, this is a good exchange. Get the references and have those references hop on a call with you, and don't just do 1 or 2 references, do 3 or 4. Really put the effort in here, because when it comes to launching and bringing a new token to the market for the first time, that first trade, that first few hours of trading can really set the tone for everything that's to come for the future. So this is something that you've invested potentially years into R&D for the technology. Really make sure to go through the rigorous steps of getting this right and doing your homework. That's the biggest advice I would give.
Great, Wesley. That coming from a very experienced partner of us, like in terms of Wesley's company, and LA Token has been associated for a long time now, and we were working on many projects together. Thank you, Wesley, for those inputs. I think it's very important for Secoba's team to understand these, because they have a new token to launch soon. So now the next part of the session, it's going to be a presentation by the team of Secoba, the CEO, Alex Campa. 10-15 minutes of presentation, then we move to the speakers for their questions and clarifications from you. So you're going to be presenting something right away, straight away, or you're going to start with a short introduction? Alex, over to you.
Hi. Yeah, I'll start with a short introduction. I'll use some slides a bit later.
Okay.
Great. So 10-15 minutes. Okay, let's try and fit it in.
We have enough time for question answers as well. So
yeah, of course. Good. So yeah, thanks again, Sunny, for this opportunity to present Secoba. A few words about myself. So I've been involved in finance and financial software for most of my life, basically professional life. Worked in securities clearing, was a financial market analyst for a few years, developed an e-banking system, wrote a bank reg reporting package from scratch, advised banks on Basel and MiFID and stuff like that. I've also done research on monetary theory and wrote a book on the subject. And when I first encountered blockchain in 2014, it seemed to me that this technology, was suitable for putting some of my ideas about money into practice. And the result of this is Secoba. So Secoba is basically a real-world DeFi platform, which I created to address the problems of the unbanked or the underbanked, and to overcome the limitations of informal credit. So let me show you what I mean by that. Well, there we go. Can you see this, my screen? Sonny, can we see the screen? Yeah. Great. Yeah. So, great. Yes. Thanks. So, informal credit is when IOUs or promises of payment are used instead of cash. So how does this work? Very simple example. Abby buys something from Maria, and now he owes her $30. Maybe afterwards, Maria goes to Abby's shop or cafe, buys something for $35, and now she owes him $5. And you'll notice that no money has changed hands. They just wrote it down. And this can go on And maybe eventually someone will have to settle in cash, but of course the cash settlement will be much less than the volume of transactions, okay? So that's what informal credit is. And basically, this is used widely all over the world, not just in developing countries, but mostly in developing countries. And if you look at the number of companies involved, there's about 300 million SMEs and micro businesses in developing countries, and that's even excluding China. So Secoba is, on Secoba Pay is the app, is a blockchain-based system for registering, tracking, and clearing debt. Okay, and it overcomes the limitations of informal credit in 4 important ways. So let's just go through these simple scenarios. You know, you owe me $50. Well, no, I don't. You know, I think it's 40. Well, it's 50 because it's registered on a blockchain, so we have proof. That's a very simple thing. And believe me, lots of these informal debts are still being written down on paper. Okay, this is generally not done in a formal way. The second scenario, can I pay later? And the counterparty says, well, I don't know you. I don't trust you, so you can't pay later. And here, the Secoba will try and find a trusted intermediary to make a deal possible, even between people and businesses that do not trust each other. It can find one or several trusted intermediaries. Okay. Third scenario, you owe me $100 today. The other one says, well, I haven't been paid either. I'd like to pay you, but I don't have the money. And so what could be the problem is that there is a circular debt situation where you have these, you know, A owes B, B owes C, and C owes A. And in reality, if you look at this, you can see that you can clear away this debt. And that's what Secoba does. We do clearing on a continual basis to reduce the need, again, for money, settlement in money. Okay, it will not always be as perfect as you can see here, but it will tend to reduce the need of cash. The fourth scenario is, well, a tradesman goes into the bank and says, can I get a loan? And the banker will say, well, you don't have a credit history. Well, yes, he does, because he's been using Secoba Pay, and his transactions have been registered on the blockchain, and he can provide a proof to the bank that he's been doing transactions and repaying his debts on time. Okay, so that's it. These are the basic use cases, and you have to understand that this informal credit, this is something that actually happens in the real world today. Okay, and many of these small and micro businesses do use this. So these informal credit ecosystems, they do exist all over the world, and our job is to make this more efficient. We do have first mover advantage. As you probably know, P2P lending projects are already quite big. There's lots of them. E-money, mobile payment systems, there's plenty of projects. But P2P IOUs, well, there's not much out there, and we think that we are the only one right now that are building a P2P IOU platform that really targets a business use. And the system can be adapted to many use cases. So we already have a couple of clients or partners for that. And I'd like to share my screen again to show you this. So first of all, the possible applications of an IOU system, there's a lot we can do. A mutual credit network. We can do local currencies. We can do digital cash payments. We can do community lending. We can do or support micro lending operations, reducing the need for cash. Direct giving, basic income programs, relief aid distribution in refugee camps, for example. All of these are possibilities that we can address because we have a very flexible system. Now, our existing partners, let's see if I can get the next slide here. Yep. So we have 3 partners. We've got Philippines, Colombia, and Luxembourg. So in the Philippines, it's a community lending credit project, or lending project really. Right now, small businesses pay up to 200% in interest from informal lenders. If we organize this correctly with our partner Jala, these businesses can then borrow from their community at much lower interest rates. Also, we'll implement a community authentication feature in our app. That way, users can more easily participate in various handout programs, including government handout programs. So we want to reach 100,000. In fact, we probably can reach many, many more. The first project is in Payatas. It's like a slum that has 500,000 people. But that's just one of many areas of Manila. Manila has 12 million inhabitants, and Jala is already planning a pilot in Payatas and already in touch with other parts of Manila and with other cities in the Philippines that have the same needs. So this can be, this could end up being much more than 100,000 users. In Bogota, our partner is going to use this for a nano micro lending project. So instead of borrowing cash, because when you do cash, you have all the cash handling is expensive. So here the idea is there is no cash. You just get a credit line, or these people get a credit line between, let's say, $10 and $50. They can spend then, they can buy things in stores using this credit line, Insegoa Pay, and then they can reimburse the debt in those stores also. So only the stores handle the money, and that makes it then more efficient. The goal of our partner, who's already in this business, is to reach 1 million users within 12 to 18 months. Okay. And in Luxembourg, well, we have this local currency. That's the only one in Luxembourg, and we're going to create the electronic version of it on our platform. In parallel, because of COVID, lots of companies have cash flow problems. So these users of this local currency will be encouraged also to use the IOU system to reduce, to overcome basically their liquidity problems. Okay, so these are 3 examples, and we're in talks with other organizations, groups in Africa, another one in Latin America. I think what's important to see here, that these are real world use cases. We're not in the crypto space, we're not buying tokens, we're talking about real businesses. These people, the ones we have now, and even the ones that we are in talks with, they have basically come to us. You know, we haven't done much marketing, and we have these use cases, they're waiting. Okay, they're ready and waiting for us to launch the production version. Okay, so I think that makes us quite you know, unique in the DeFi space. So where are we now? We've developed the first version of the backend. We have the mobile app, which is for both Android and iOS, and we're undergoing beta testing of the app. We have started to work on the blockchain layer. So the blockchain will be a permissioned blockchain. The nodes will be run by trusted institutions such as NGOs, banks, local governments. There will be not too many nodes to make a fast blockchain, basically. It's designed to be massively scalable. We are designing this knowing that we may need to support millions of users quite quickly. We also take data privacy very seriously. Users will own their data. Disclosure of data will be fully consensual, meaning that users will be able to decide with whom they share the data and what data is shared. We are targeting production launch for the end of this year, assuming we get the necessary financing. Maybe just a word about our business model. We're targeting $10 to $20 per year per user in transaction costs. And this is per user per small micro business user, okay? And in the current token pre-sale round, we're aiming to raise $500,000. And then we will need to raise more for global expansion. So probably at least 2 million, if possible, later this year via an IEO. So that's where we are today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alex. That was a great presentation from you, very you know, to the point. Now we open the floor to our speakers to ask questions. Sanjay, please.
So Alex, maybe I missed this. How do you make money by charging the user a fee, right? That's it? Or you charge them any kind of interest rate? So what's my value proposition if I'm one of the users of your platform?
If you want to, well, yes, we charge transaction fees. We are just
Okay.
For the moment, we are a place to record this debt, to you know, record it, track it, clear it. Okay, we don't handle money. We don't lend. It's not a lending business. Yeah, the value proposition is that using this, well, these people already do this. Okay, we don't tell them, hey, start paying, start doing IOUs between yourselves. They are doing this already. We're saying them, no, you're doing it with our tool. It gets more efficient, right? We do the clearing, we do the tracking. You get the proof of the debt in case your business partner defaults on you. At least you've got a proof. And in some cases, if everything goes well, you get clearing, and you don't have to. You have less money to handle.
So I pay two kind of fees, right? So if I'm the receiver of the loan, or I've created the IOU, right? So basically, I owe someone money. Am I paying, or the person who has raised the IOU paying? So that's one question. And the second question is, there are two expenses I have. One is the platform expense, and one is the person who's connected to your platform who's lending, right? So have you connected people onto your platform who can lend off the platform or on the platform?
Okay, but this is, okay, once again, this is not lending, this is IOUs.
Okay, so I get it. So
okay.
you're basically not adding that feature at all. Okay, got it.
The platform could be used for lending, but
I'm incurring two expenses, right? I'm incurring a platform expense, and whoever lends to me, irrespective on platform or off platform, I have to pay the interest rate there, right? So how do I save my 200% interest?
Okay, this 200%, that's a use case in the Philippines, because there people go to informal lenders.
Yep.
Here, this community, they're going to set up, allow their community members to just provide funds to the small businesses at much lower interest rates. Okay. Maybe just to clarify, in the system, every user, so these users who will join the system, they already do business with each other, they know each other. Every user decides how much, they essentially grant each other credit lines. So every user decides, okay, to this is my business partner, I grant him up to $1,000 credit line. I'll give him 30 days to repay. Everyone decides what the interest rate should be, and things like that, and whether there's a one-time fee. So everyone decides precisely how much they trust others, and up to how much others can owe their money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you, Sanjay. George?
Yes, I do have one, I guess, simple question. You are sort of a cross between a fintech company and a bartering company, so you can basically exchange of services. One of the challenges I see potentially is in some countries you have the concept of VAT anytime services get rendered. So how do you plan to address the issues associated with certain regulations in jurisdictions where VAT is present?
Mm-hmm. Well, Alice goes to Bob to buy something in this shop, right? And then Bob says, well, how are you going to pay for it? And it's 10 euros including VAT. And she said, well, write it down and it's going to be registered, right? So whatever the amount, the transaction amount is, all right, it of course should include VAT. But that's in a way that's not our problem, because just give me an example. If they were using the banking system, okay, if they're actually just paying, okay, Alice pays Bob 10 euros, right? And they do it via bank transfer. The bank doesn't ask them, is VAT included in this transfer, right? So it is not up to us to manage the VAT. It's up to the businesses in the usual way.
But it's actually two things. Actually, you raise even a more slightly detailed, because you're offering a service. Sometimes even the service that you offer or the fees that you charge might themselves be VAT taxable. But I think that's probably a bit too much for now. But I think I just was trying to understand how to address legislation in various jurisdictions so that the system doesn't encounter legal problems in its operation.
Mm-hmm. So did I answer this question? Or
yeah, that's fine. That's
yeah.
Okay. That's answered. Thank you.
Okay, we can take this offline for more elaborate discussions. Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Leslie, questions from you?
Did you say me?
Yes. Any
Oh,
questions?
okay. Got it. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation, Alex. A few questions from my side. Can you just walk me through the high level construct of the token ecosystem?
Well, in order to transact, okay, users will need to buy some tokens, okay. Actually, okay, I don't want to go into the sort of deep details, but there's going to be a kind of internal gas token that will be an accounting unit that will be stable, okay. So transaction costs will not depend on the value of the token, right? The gas token is going to be stable, or the gas unit will be stable, but there'll be the main token, which will fluctuate in value, but you will need to actually buy this token in order to get your internal transaction units, okay? So let's say you buy SKO tokens for $10, then you can immediately sell them and convert them into, let's say, 1,000 or a few thousand, SKS, that internal units, and then you can transact. So there's a natural demand of the main token, right, by the system for people who want to use the system, and then this token then gets basically paid out to the node operators to pay for the operation of the nodes, and to the future Secoba Foundation that will be in charge of funding projects, ecosystem, etc. So there'll be a system, a circuit where tokens are spent to transact, they get redistributed, and then these tokens then are sold by the node operators and the Secoba Foundation to fund the operations. And given that there'll be a fixed amount of tokens, the token value as a utility token should naturally tend to follow the volume of transactions in the system.
Got it. Are there, thank you for that. Are there any other, novel utility functions? Like I'm just thinking of a natural one where, a new user onboards, the system, they haven't established that reputational credit history in the network yet. Could they, purchase some tokens and use those as reputational collateral to bootstrap their credit history in the network and give confidence to P2P lenders?
So there's two things here. First of all, new users will get will get a certain amount of free transactions. So they'll get a credit of something that is not, they will not be able to monetize it, but they'll be able to transact for a while for free. But very important, this is that there is no concept of sort of credit rating in the system. In this system, you're not supposed to transact with someone because he's got some rating in the system. This is, you transact with people you know already. Okay, so the trust comes from the real world and not from the system itself. So you'll be able to check if how long someone has been participating, how many transactions he's done, etc. But you're not supposed to trust someone because of his status in the system. You're supposed to only trust businesses and your business partners whom you already know, with whom you already transact.
So I mean, why limit it, right? I mean, why not open it up to the world?
Oh, you can, but we just don't recommend it. That's not the purpose of the system. You can create a credit, you can grant credit lines to whomever you want, but we just say, be careful, because you're granting real credit lines to people and businesses, and act as if you would in your normal course of business. No business will grant a credit line to another one if they don't know them, or they will have to check and go via some credit rating agencies or stuff like that. So
sure, but I'm just thinking of this situation, right, where let's just say we're Alice, Bob, and John are all from the same small town, and Alice lends money to Bob. Bob lends money, back to Alice, and John has been doing business with Bob for many years, but has never interfaced with Alice. Can't John trust to interface with Alice because Alice has been interfacing with his buddy Bob? Like, can't you have some reputational?
Yeah. So the way to, there's two things. The first one is, this is the basic use case of Secoba is not lending money. You can do it, but the basic use case is to transact, right? You don't, if you want to buy something if it's a P2P lending, you borrow money and then you buy it. In Secoba, right? If you have a trust relationship, you buy it and then you owe. So you don't need to borrow first. You simply owe someone. You say, hey, give me this item, this widget, and then I owe you. That's it. Now, this example that you showed is very good that you asked this question. Actually, if you have, let's say three people, A, B, C, and A and B trust each other, and B and C trust each other. Okay, I don't know don't remember the names you use, but let's say that A and C don't know each other and don't trust each other. Then we have this. The mechanism in our system is called credit conversion, so that if A wants to buy from C, and that's the slide actually with the intermediary. Maybe I'll just quickly show you the slide because that will make things a little bit clearer. Maybe it's this one here. If you don't mind, I'll just quickly share my screen again. Yeah. So you see here, this woman wants to buy from this older guy, and there's no trust relationship, but maybe there's a trusted relation in the middle. And then if yes, and if this guy in the middle has enabled what we call credit conversion, for which we are going to actually encourage people, incentivize people to do that, then that middleman can act as a middleman, right? So when then she buys from him, yeah, the result will be that she will owe money to the middleman, and the middleman will owe money to the final, for the third guy. And these payment paths can be longer, can be, so we call this a payment path. But the result is that if you look again at this situation, they do a transaction. At the end, she owes the middleman, and the middleman owes the final, let's say, provider. Okay, but the debt is always to people whom they know. In this system, you will never end up having someone owe you money whom you do not specifically trust. Whatever transactions you do, you transact with someone, but in the end, when you buy something from this guy, from this shop, and they don't know you, but you can still transact. But in the end, what they will see in the app, they will see, oh, someone whom I trust owes me money. Okay, so there'll be never a debt between people or businesses that don't trust each other.
Got it.
Yeah, that's clear. Is that okay?
Is that all you have, Wesley?
Yes, that answered my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Alex, you could probably stop sharing the screen. Yeah, thank you. So we have Asaf from FutureBlock in place of Zahi. Asaf, hi. Welcome to VCTV. How are you?
I'm good. Hope you enjoy from the quality time with Zahi, and now we are switching. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions for Alex? Were you there?
Yeah, I heard the pitch, and it was an interesting one. I actually saw several type of solution, similar type of solution. So, I mean, like the industry is still early. So what is more interesting for me is to better understand the go-to-market. If I understand correctly, Alex, the plan is to go to market something by the end of this year. And you mentioned several type of engagements that you are already running. So the main question from my side, or the main thing that I'm trying to understand is, what is the maturity of those type of collaboration? Let's assume that you're going to have the solution ready today or tomorrow. Is it something that you can distribute, or starting to see a significant usage on those type of channels?
Well, I think so. To give the example, the first one that he gave, which was the Philippines with Jala, they are basically waiting. There is this sort of non-profit called the Concerned Citizens of Payatas, they've been looking for a solution already for a while. And so our partner there, they've been really, this is not a new project. It's just they haven't found the tools to implement what they wanted to do. And basically they're calling me and saying, Alex, when are you ready? You know, our guys want to get started as soon as possible. And the same is, and that's just Payatas, and Mushin, our contact there, says that even now other groups have already contacted him, that they have heard that he has this project in Payatas, and they want also to do something similar. So we're good to go. We just need to get our tech ready and the application ready. In Bogota, it's a bit similar. It has been slowed down a little bit by COVID there, but we're back on track now. And again, as I said, in Bogota, our partner is already in a kind of lending business. Okay, so he knows the market, and we're in the same situation. He just says, well, let's get this thing. He wants to launch it. It's we who are not ready. We'd say we're in a pull situation. Okay, we're not in a situation where let's get our product and then let's see how we can find clients. It's more like we have the clients and we'll have plenty of work with them to scale it, etc. But we need to rush now to get our product ready. That's the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that again, when we know the situation in the market right now, I mean, DeFi projects are becoming another bubble like the ICO that has been happening in 2017. And for sure, it's a great opportunity, especially if there is a traction from the business side. So, I mean, like if we are putting this bubble aside, I believe that again, I don't know how, and this is maybe something we can drill down and take it offline, but need to understand why the requirement for the go-to-market is around those type of numbers you mentioned. While I believe that might be a smart way to make the raise or to raise the funds after go-to-market. So I'm not saying right now not to raise funds, it's a matter of the financial aspect, but I think that if you can reduce the amount and then go to market and then see initial traction, the value will be totally different. So this is a little bit different strategy, of course, but that for me at least make more sense.
Right. I think that's a great point there.
Yep.
You guys can take this offline to have a longer discussion and conversation. I'm just conscious of the time. But very good point, Asaf, and thanks for joining VCTV. I think you got sort of intrigued and interested in the project, and that's why you joined us. So Alex, you already have somebody who is interested. So thank you so much. Any other questions from anybody here before we close? No? We are all good? Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So before we close, I just want to have some closing remarks from each of you. Like, how did you feel? What are any closing remarks for? And it could be anything around any subject, the subject we touched on today, or in generally what's happening. Wesley, what's the closing remarks for you today?
Closing remarks. Well, number one, thank you so much, Alex, for the presentation, and Sunny for inviting me to the call. Closing remark, Sunny has my contact information. When you're ready to go to market, we'd love to have a conversation. And wishing you the best of luck.
Excellent. Thank you, Wesley. Sanjay.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much. It was great to meet everyone on the panel. Alex, thanks for the presentation. You've done a tremendous amount of job. With a few more tinkering, you can actually do a few more use cases. So Sony has my details, and I think you have our emails, right? So feel free to reach out. But good session, good engaging discussion. I think I do believe very sincerely that blockchain is going to, I speak at a lot of places, at business schools, top business schools, and I always say in this post-COVID environment, the sun is setting 4 times a day. The digital pace is much faster. What was going to happen in 2025 is going to happen in 2021. So very, very nice, Alex. What you have, you're solving a use case, very interesting. It can be extended a little bit, which could actually make it much more valuable. Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sanjay.
I'll be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Great. George?
Yes,
closing remarks?
I was very happy with the solution. Thanks, Alex, for presenting Sicoba. Yes, I agree with some of the other panelists that there is a little bit maybe of small polishing to do, maybe a small video to complement, maybe a little bit more on the timeline of the deliverables of the project, a little bit more maybe on the whole team. But other than that, I believe this kind of solution has applications in several continents like Africa and certain parts of Asia. Definitely countries like India, Pakistan, and all that. So I believe that the future is good as long as you find a way to grow the market in an efficient way. And I think adding maybe flexible multi-support, multi-currencies, and all kinds of onboarding capability, maybe a basic KYC capability. But those come obviously with every product. I mean, you start with a minimal viable solution and eventually you add the pieces that make sense as you get more budget and more capabilities. But I think it's on the right track. And I think it's solving a pain point that has been there for a long, long time.
I agree. It's definitely solving a pain point. Thank you, George. We've lost Asaf. So Alex, your closing remarks for the show.
Okay, well, it's great to be here, Sonny. Thanks again for the invitation. Just very quickly to George, we already have the app. We have already 15 languages in the app and lots of currencies, and we'll get more. So it's really a pleasure to present this. I can tell by the questions that, you know, that this was a great audience, that people understood what I think the potential of this is. And I hope to be in touch with all of you. I think I sent out already LinkedIn invitations, but it'll be great to get some offline feedback later on. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So this brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for your time today, for taking your time today and listening to Sicoba. And thanks the team of Sicoba for presenting this to our audience. So we host these such events Monday to Friday. You can check us out at www.latoken.com/events. Anything that interests you, please reach out to me and I can just give you share more information about if you're interested to speak and take part in the panel. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's stay connected and speak soon.